here I have Gorilla Epoxy, sets in 5 minutes, clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to drain this soap dispenser and then rinse out the soap that's on here and let it dry in order to get the epoxy going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pour this out. I have a bowl that it's sitting in right here, so I'm going to pour this out. Just let it drip in there. So that's good soap. I don't want to throw away the soap. Okay, so I have that. And then now I have the actual part that I'm going to be fixing right here. So it's this part right here. It's sitting in the soap. It has broken off, and I'm going to have to epoxy it back into that. So let me take this over to the sink, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead and rinse the soap off and dry it so I can get started with the epoxy part of the project. I've cleaned off and rinsed the detergent, the soap, the dish soap off of the pump part right here. You can see there's a little bit of detergent still left in there, but that is a very small amount, and it won't come into play with this part of the project. It won't affect the part of the project. So what I'm going to do is, you come in closer. Let me show you this right here. So it broke off. The plastic, for some reason, gave way. And so how this is supposed to sit on here is supposed to be like this. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get this part off. This is part of the screw. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this part. And I'm going to have to attach this back to the ring. And there's some more soap on this part, which I did not get off. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse this soap from off of this part of the screw. All right, so I've rinsed it off. You can see right here that there's no more soap on. And so what I have to do is you can look and see where the plastic broke off and it just gave way. Sometimes plastic does that under pressure. It'll crack in mysterious ways. And so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to put this back on to the way it was. And so right here, just go ahead and line it up just to see where it goes so I can know where to apply the epoxy. And so it fits in something like this. It's an epoxy project right here. So it looks like I'm going to have to add epoxy and then put some sort of pressure on top of it. Perhaps sit that on top of it after I've glued it together, just so it holds in place while the epoxy cures. It says that it sets in 5 minutes, and then I believe it's 24 hours. Mix for 20 seconds, apply within 5 minutes, clamp and leave bonded undisturbed for 30 minutes. So it says clamp and leave for 30 minutes. So that's what I'm going to do. So let me go ahead and check this just to reassure how it's supposed to sit on here. It's supposed to sit like this. Right there. So it's supposed to be like that. Get the seal all the way around. See that? A couple of pieces, looks like a couple of pieces chipped off. That's okay. The epoxy will fill in the gap right there. So it sits nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and do it, epoxy it that this way, and then I'm also going to try to get the outsides just to fill in some of the gaps that the epoxy is going to fill. So I'm going to go ahead and mix the epoxy. Right here I have a piece of cardboard, and then I have a Q-tip, which I'm going to actually use to mix it. So with the Gorilla Glue epoxy that sets in 5 minutes, it says I'm going to go ahead and take this off and squeeze this out onto the tray right here and then mix it and then apply it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take the cap off of this. I'm going to go ahead and pour it on the cardboard right here. or press some of it out on the cardboard. Now it's tricky because this is a tube that I've had for a while. Looks like only one side is coming out. Just going to go ahead and press it. The other side will come out eventually. And it's coming out. Epoxy probably did a little bit more than I needed. So I have the epoxy on this, and I'm going to pull back the pump and then put the cap back on here so this doesn't dry up on me, so I can get some more uses out of it. So I have that, and now I'm going to take the Q-tip and I'm going to mix it for 20 seconds. Spilled a little bit onto the paper towel. It's all right. Just pull it back up on here. And I'm just going to mix this, get this nice and mixed for 20 seconds. And when you're mixing this, it actually activates the epoxy so it can do its job with being glued together. So I've mixed this 14, 15, 16, 17 pretty well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it on the base first, okay? So I'm going to take the epoxy, and I'm just going to take it on the Q-tip, maybe get some fresh mix so I don't have one side or the other. And I'm going to do it, put it on the base. Now this is a kind of a sloppy job, but I have the other end of the toothpick or Q-tip to get up any of the mess. And for what I'm using this for, it doesn't have to be the nicest epoxy job out there. So I have that on there, and then I'm going to line it up the way we had it before. Just going to take this, line it up. And while it's wet, you have a little bit of leeway. Okay, if you make a mistake, you can fix it right away and not worry about losing too much. So you could go ahead, take some epoxy and go around the edges right here. It's not necessary in this project right here. Make sure you clean it out, especially like on the screw part, because you need that part for afterwards. Got a little bit messy. So I like using Q-tips because it allows me to make up for the mistakes that I usually make. So I have this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this right here, and it says for about 30 minutes. I'm just going to put this because it adds a little bit of weight to it. Could possibly put something else on top of it, like that. If it balances. It says use a clamp, but I don't have a clamp. Just going to use this weight. Or how about I do it like this? This would probably be the smarter move. Ta-da. And I'm just going to let that sit for about 10 minutes or so, or 30 minutes. And then I'm going to go ahead and try to apply it and see if it actually worked. All right, so it should be set by now. It's been quite a while. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take off the clamp that I made to keep the pressure on it. Move that, and then pick this up. So it should be dry to a degree. But I think I'm going to let it wait overnight to make sure that it's nice and secure. It looks like epoxy filled in the gaps. Don't necessarily need the pressure anymore, but I'll still leave it on top just so I can make sure that the seal is permanent and I won't have to come back and do this again. You can see where the epoxy actually filled in the gap right here. And I got some of the excess epoxy off of the screw part. So I'll come back perhaps tomorrow and put this together and put this into action so we can actually see this epoxy job done completely well. All right, so let's go ahead and wait till tomorrow. Let this dry. All right, it's the next day and the epoxy has dried. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this back together so I can apply soap or put soap back into the jar. I'm going to have this side right here. I'm going to take this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put through the hole right there. And then I'm going to take the epoxy dried screw part of this, and I'm going to put it back into place. And it broke again. So the epoxy did not dry. Looks like I'm going to have to do another epoxy job because that did not work. So this just goes to show you, no one's perfect. Not even me. Alright, so I redid this, and now that it's dried, I'm going to go ahead and reseal or redo this to put it back together. Reassemble this. That's the word I was looking for. I'm going to put that back there, and then I'm going to go ahead and take this and put this back into place to make sure that the nozzle stays in place. And then, so there it is, the pump is back together, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and take the soap, dish soap that I had, and I'm going to actually put it back inside of the cup right here. Just going to go ahead and pour it back in there. Very gracefully. Alright. Just pour it in there gracefully. Should go in there very easily. As such. Then once it's in there, you're going to go ahead and put that bowl down. And just go ahead and reseal the jar. And that's how you do it. Go ahead and pump. See, it's working. Just like that. Hope this video was helpful. Thanks a lot for watching.